Today, Donald Trump, he did something once again. Now, today he rescinded the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, which they call DACA. President Obama signed the executive order back in 2012 as a temporary fix for about 800,000 people to prevent them from being mass deported out of the United States of America. So during this program, they had to register, pay a $500 fee, and they'll be good every 2 years. Well, Trump is getting rid of that, and I want to roll a few clips to really discuss the consequences of what's really possibly about to happen.
Okay. Good morning. I'm here today to announce that the program known as DACA that was effectuated under the Obama administration is being rescinded. The DACA program was implemented in 2012 and essentially provided a legal status for recipients for a renewable 2-year term, work authorization, and other benefits, including participation in the Social Security program to 800,000 mostly adult illegal aliens. The policy was implemented unilaterally to great controversy and legal concern after Congress rejected legislative proposals to extend similar benefits on numerous occasions to this same group of illegal aliens. In other words, the executive branch, through DACA, deliberately sought to achieve what the legislative branch specifically refused to authorize on multiple occasions. Such an open-ended circumvention of immigration laws was an unconstitutional exercise of authority by the executive branch. The effect of this unilateral executive amnesty, among other things, contributed to a surge of minors at the southern border that yielded terrible humanitarian consequences. It also denied jobs to hundreds of thousands of Americans by allowing those same illegal aliens to take those jobs. We inherited from our founders and have advanced an unsurpassed legal heritage, which is the foundation of our freedom, our safety, and our prosperity. As Attorney General, it is my duty to ensure that the laws of the United States are enforced and that the constitutional order is upheld. No greater good for the overall health and well-being of our republic than preserving and strengthening the impartial rule of law.
Looking pretty good right now. Yes, you can see a few bloom. That's a good sign right there.
The cantaloupe plants are thriving on Joe Del Bosque's California farm. But Del Bosque is worried, not about the melons, about having enough workers to harvest them.
Just this field right here behind us will take 100 people to pick.
And if you don't get them?
We don't pick them, and melons are very perishable, so we lose them.
They'll just rot in the fields.
Yes, they will.
With President Donald Trump vowing to step up deportations of undocumented immigrants, field workers aren't showing up in the same numbers as before, with potentially disastrous consequences for farmers.
If we can't get in and pick these melons in time, in the heat of the summer, we could lose tens of thousands of dollars per day.
Del Bosque says he's invited Trump via Twitter to come see for himself.
I don't think that he understands it, and I'd be very willing to host a visit from him to come out here and learn about it, because all of the fresh fruits and vegetables that you eat, that everybody eats in the nation, is all picked by hands, and almost all of it's picked by immigrant hands.
While farmers here are concerned they won't have enough workers to harvest their crops, the workers are frightened that under Trump's new policies they may wind up being deported.
In a nearby farming town, 2 workers wait for a ride to the fields. Angel, who asked that we not use his last name, has been working in the U.S. illegally for 20 years.
People are scared to go to the fields because of the problems with this president. They want to kick out the people who work in the fields.
Rumors of raids and deportations have unsettled the Latino community, says Mexico's local consul.
What we see is a huge worry. There is great fear.
The repercussions reach across the border to Mexico.
They come to work and they do a good job, and with the money they make here, they maintain their families in Mexico.
Many heavily agricultural counties in central California voted heavily for Trump, who promised farmers relief from environmental regulations. Now they may suffer instead, and so will American consumers.
Those who voted for him will have to pay more for their food. They will have deported the ones who feed them. But because of their vote, we have to suffer too. Yes, that's the truth.
A lesson in the law of unintended consequences.
We're fed up. We're fed up with every single attack that has come our way. We're just so tired of it, and this is how we want DACA. We want DACA by showing that we're undocumented, that we're unafraid, and we're sitting here, all DACA recipients, to show Trump that we're not going to be afraid of him, that we're tired of him attacking us, and we're going to continue to fight not just for dreamers, but for our families. We didn't come to this country alone. We came with our community. We came with our families, and we're sitting here to let him know that we're not going to throw our parents under the bus. We're going to fight for the 11 million, and we cannot continue to take his attacks. We're going to be undocumented, unafraid, and we're not going to back down.
Thank you for tuning in and watching, and thank you for your support. It means a lot. For my family, and for all the other people out there just like me whose dreams and livelihood depend on it.
Thank you. Now, legally, an executive order isn't a binding law. Only Congress can pass a binding law in the United States of America, and the Senate, and then it goes to the president. I mean, you remember U.S. government class. So an executive order would not be something that we need to depend on. For instance, anything that Donald Trump writes in and as an executive order, the next president can come behind him and get rid of it because it isn't a law. Yes, you have to abide by the executive order, but another president can get rid of it. So that was already on the chopping block. Now, when President Obama was president and they had a Democratic controlled Congress, they did not pass an immigration reform bill at all. They didn't send anything to President Obama to sign. When the Republicans took control of Congress and the Senate, of course, they're not going to do anything to help Barack Obama. We know that. They blocked everything that he tried to do. So that's why we're looking at where we're at today. So Trump promised many times during his campaign, he didn't hide any of this. He stated that he was going to get rid of DACA. He stated that. He stated that he was going to deport a lot of people. He said about 3 million he wants to deport. That's in his head. So Donald Trump, if you're depending on him to be a good moral guy and not be cruel, you're looking at the wrong one, because people in Donald Trump's world don't get to where they at without being evil and cruel to people who are poor. And then you add the racial element to this. Now, one thing we watched in the second clip, because of the deportations, now we having immigrants not wanting to work on farms to pick your local produce. Now, if they don't want to work anymore because they're afraid Trump going to round them up, what's going to happen to the produce in the fields? They're going to die off. And the minimum produce that they will have, guess what's going to happen to it? The prices are going to skyrocket. So if you have a head of lettuce that's like $1, what if you go to the grocery store one day because Trump is deporting everybody, and then you have to pay $10 or $9 for a head of lettuce? You would be angry. You would be upset. You would be pissed off that why all of a sudden you're paying all these high prices for produce. Or you go to get a bag of potatoes that's probably $3, and all of a sudden now you're paying $15. The same people who wanted all these illegals out, and all the brown people and Asian people and black people, because yes, there are black people that are benefiting from DACA as well. Don't be silly. Just because the media use the Hispanic community as the face of DACA doesn't mean other groups aren't benefiting from that. The media has a propaganda they're spewing out. So that would be the consequences of what Donald Trump is doing. And then people will be complaining that they can't afford food, or there will be produce shortages. And when they have produce shortages, who you think going to suffer the most? It's going to be poor communities, because they're going to make sure that the middle class and upper class communities have produce, even if they have to pay higher prices. But Donald Trump and people like him don't think about the ripple effect of certain decisions that he is making. You see, once we see things like this, then we're going to be like, oh, well, it's hurting us now. Trump sucks and all this. No, but this is what a lot of people wanted with Trump. And to those people who are DACA recipients and you are afraid that you possibly going to be deported, remember, who is the people that was championing you to get deported? I want you to pay attention to that. I will tell you, it was not anyone in the black community that was going to rallies screaming that you need to be deported. It was no black people screaming that DACA is unconstitutional and you shouldn't be here. We never did that because we always get a bad rap. And I have to speak up and defend the community to tell you that. Anytime anyone look down on black people, remember, we don't push for your deportation. We don't push for your jobs to be taken away from you. That's a group of people who've always had privilege ever since they arrived here because they created it that way. Now, you look at the immigrants, and I'm going to tell you this. When I go to pay my light bill or try to work or do anything, an immigrant isn't bothering me. A DACA recipient isn't bothering me. They haven't hurt my quality of life. But you have to understand the mindset of those who are against them. You see, they're so used to their privilege, and understand the privilege they're talking about is only for the males. It's not really for the females, because the good old days that Trump was talking about, only the men go out and work and have a job. So when they look at some of you who have jobs, they say, wait a minute, that job should have been for a white male. You only got that job because of affirmative action, not your hard work or sacrifice. When they see a black person with something, they say that should be a job or a position for a white male. They only got it because of this or that and the third. You can't do anything off of your merit. Even though black people, we have to work 10 times harder, be 10 times more educated than they have to be. So everything that they're seeing, they don't want you to have. So their solution is to kick you out because they don't want to compete. Because the more people come in this country with skills, and there's a lot of people coming in this country with skills that they do not have, they cannot compete with you. Not to say they can't go to school and learn what you learn, but they can't compete. So their attitude is, well, I can't compete, just kick you out. But for every cruel measure that they're pulling, it's only going to backfire on them at the end of the day. It's going to wake up those who thought that they had a seat at the table with white supremacy. And it's going to let you know real quick, as you finding out today, you don't have a seat. They will tell you that black people are bad and why can't black people do this and all these other groups, whatever. But at the end of the day, Trump wanted to usher in old school white supremacy. I warned you guys about this prior to that man being elected. These people, as you saw in Charlottesville, and all these politicians are starting to be open with their racism. They're not hiding it anymore. They're not hiding behind sheets or anything. They're blatantly telling you how they are. And they have a haven in the Republican Party. And let me tell you something about that Democratic Party. They're no better. Now, what Trump has done has rescinded DACA, but he said, I'll give him Congress 6 months to come up with an immigration reform bill. If not, well, he said he'll revisit it. But I'm going to tell you what, if they couldn't pass health care with a majority Republican Senate and Congress, then why do you think they're going to pass immigration reform? Don't you listen to any Republican that tell you, oh, it feels so bad, because at the end of the day, if it's between you and them, it's going to be you. It's not going to be them. They want to continue to get that free government money, the money they get from lobbyists, etc. They don't care about you like that, because if they actually cared about you, they wouldn't have agreed with Donald Trump doing the things that he is doing. Now, I feel what Donald Trump is doing is extremely cruel and extremely heartless, because children have no choice in coming over here. And I always put myself in other people's shoes. If I lived in a country where it's just horrible, people being murdered all over the place, which a lot of them come from areas like that, I understand trying to bring your children to a place that they don't have to deal with that. as a parent. And if I have, like, for instance, like my kids, they coming because I'm telling them they coming over here. If anyone you want to do something to, do it to the parent. But if the kid came in a little baby, 2 years old, 3 years old, and this child grew up the whole life up to adult, and they're here, all they know is America, they're literally an American, then why would you do something like that? Well, I understand why they would do something like that, because they don't want the browning of America. They're trying to do everything possible to stop the browning of America. It's just that simple. But I'm going to tell them this. Your efforts, all you're going to do is just make people hate you more. If you go back to my old videos prior to Donald Trump being elected, I stated that by the end of Donald Trump's presidency, you have so many people having a hatred of those who side with Donald Trump and a lot of those within the Caucasian community that it's going to be a major problem. And I didn't realize it was going to be this bad, because we have to look at who voted for Donald Trump. Of course, not all Caucasian people voted for Donald Trump. They didn't. A lot of them can't stand Donald Trump, but the majority of them did. And then those who say they can't stand Donald Trump didn't vote at all. You have 40 million registered voters that did not vote in the election, and now they're pissed off with Trump. You didn't vote. So what could you say at this point? Now, this should be a good lesson in maybe you should register to vote, and maybe you should go out there and vote in the next election when it comes up. You got midterm elections happening next year. Change Congress, change the Senate. The only thing I will say about the situation, and maybe you'll get what you need, but I don't know. But this is only getting more and more interesting with Donald Trump. I see more things coming down the pipeline with him. I saw a story out of Detroit, and you have a group of Chaldeans out of Iraq that built a community in Detroit, and they overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. And now ICE is rounding them up too and shipping them back to Iraq. And they said that if they go back to Iraq, they're afraid they're going to be killed. But you voted for Donald Trump, though, even though this man was having the support of racists and white supremacists. And those same people, from what I heard out of Detroit, don't like black people too much. And you voted for Trump, and you see what happens. I tell you that. Stop having a hatred for black people. We're not calling for you to leave this country. It's them folks. And you know them folks who I'm talking about. That's calling for you to leave. So you have to now look at what's going on in your life and say, what are you going to do to make a change? Yes, all these people talking about they're going to sue about DACA, but there's nothing to sue because an executive order isn't a binding law. It's not. So Congress has to fix it. For y'all's sake, I hope they do fix it. Because I like to say, I'm not a cruel and evil man. I'm not. I have a heart for people, and I would not want to see people just ripped out of their homes and thrown to a country they never been. I would want to see that. But with this Congress and Senate, I would be pretty nervous at this point. I'm just being a realist with you. And then if they do pass a bill, Donald Trump can veto it. So you can't really depend on that either. And then it would have to go back to Congress and Senate, and they would have to have, what, 3/4 of Congress to override the president on a veto. I mean, we remember U.S. Government class. So it's not a good situation at all. Also, people in the Hispanic community, 31% of your own community voted for Donald Trump. That's another thing. Sellouts are always a problem in the black community, in any community. The shucking and jiving. So y'all have to deal with that just as much as we have to deal with that as well. Because it makes me sick to see black people the way they was at that NRG with Trump. He up there kissing on black babies and black people, oh, Trump. And then look what he did 2 days later. I mean, it's a sad situation. Of course, President Barack Obama responded to this. He said it was very cruel and it was definitely a moral issue. But, you know, you have to understand people like Trump don't have morals. They don't. All they see is what they see, and that's it. You're poor, you don't mean crap. That's not their kids. As long as his kids are good and kids that look like his persuasion is good, then he's good. That's the way that works. But leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this. Share the video, like the commentary, and subscribe for more news stories.